Hey there, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here. On today's episode, it is a special one because this is the holiday recommendations episode. These are actual things that I use. They're all budget oriented, so I've got a few that are on the pricier end, but for the most part, it's going to be stocking stuffers, things under 50 bucks, 50 to 100, and then things over 100 bucks. So those are kind of the four sections I'm going to break it up into. I'm going to give you all my recommendations for those different categories. I'm going to put chapters in this video too, so if you want to skip around, I just want it to be as valuable as possible for you as you're looking for gifts and stuff, or ideas for gifts to ask for yourself, or to give to other people that, may be into overlanding or camping. With each of those, I'm going to give you 5 recommendations and a bonus. So, watch to the end of each section so that you make sure to get to that bonus, because that's probably one of my favorite things is each of the bonus things in the categories. So let's get into my 2021 gift recommendations for Overlanders. All Things Overlanding is brought to you by some fantastic companies. You should definitely check out the description and click through their links to see all the awesome stuff they offer. Companies like Red Arc for all your overlanding power management needs. Last US Bag, tons of amazing quality overlanding bags. Rugged Bound Supply Company, rooftop tents, awnings, roof racks, and more. And Northology Overland, guided overlanding trips and a free overlanding magazine. Alright guys, so starting with stocking stuffers first. I'm going to run you through all my suggestions, and then I hope that you guys will post up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, let me know what you want, let me know which ones popped out to you, but hopefully these will be helpful for you. So let's start with stocking stuffers. First, of course, you gotta get some ATO, All Things Overlanding, patches and stickers. Really though guys, I do have a bunch of them. I have a bunch of different patches and stickers. They're for sale through the link in the description down below, but they're very inexpensive. They make great gifts, so, I may be a little biased, but definitely check those out. Next, the MSR Alpine Dish Brush. This thing is one of my favorite pieces of gear. I've had it for like 2 or 3 years now. It was like $5 or $6. It has a little dish scraper on the side of it. It's got a brush built into it. It is perfect and tiny for, taking on those trips when you need to wash your dishes, clean things up. It works great. Totally reusable, use it over and over again. It's fantastic and super inexpensive, so I love that thing. Next, Mountain House meals. So if you're not familiar with these, they're basically like bagged, dehydrated meals. You just boil some water, dump them into them, and you've got a full, delicious meal ready to go. I'm going to put a link in the description below to biscuits and gravy because that's one of my favorites. It's delicious. But again, super, super easy. Boil some water, pour it in. Give it a few minutes, let it sit there. It will rehydrate that food, make it nice and hot, and it's delicious and super easy to make. So those are great things to stuff into a stocking for someone. Next, my Taperus utensil set. This thing is fantastic. It comes in its own little bag with a zipper on it so you can keep the dust out of it, water out of it. They are sort of like spoon, fork, knife combo pieces, like a spork, but with a spoon at one end and a fork/knife at the other end. There are multiple pieces in this. They take up almost no room. So just having like a little bag where they can go and keeping that in my, my bigger bag where I keep all my kitchen stuff makes it really super easy to use. They're actually metal. They're of a good size. They're not tiny like a lot of the sporks are where you're kind of, trying to mess with this little tiny thing. They're like normal size silverware, and they're very inexpensive, maybe like 15 bucks or something. So again, there will be a link in the description below to all these things that I'm talking about. So if you're interested in any of these, just go down there and click through and you can find them really easily. And the last sort of stocking stuffer recommendation, of course, the good old-fashioned quick fists. The size that I'm going to link to in the description below are the ones that are perfect for most things. So things like, axes, mauls, knives. If you're going to throw stuff up in the back of a vehicle, a truck, an SUV, these things are really easy to install. They're very inexpensive. You get like 2 of them for like $9, I think. So they're just great little stocking stuffers to put into someone's stocking that will allow them to mount a variety of gear in different places in their vehicle. All right, so the next section, under $50. So these are more like main gift type things. Some of them are inexpensive, but they may be too big for a stocking. But so basically anything that's $50 or below. So my first one in this section is rechargeable hand warmers. I've got several of these different sizes, different size batteries, different physical sizes. The one that I'm going to link to is one of the ones with the biggest battery that lasts the longest and is the highest quality. You can also use it as a battery bank, so you can charge things off of it, which is really nice. But it's also pretty inexpensive. And it's, in the long run versus like the chemical hot hands, which are also great, but they're single use, you can reuse this thing. You can keep it charged up off your vehicle, take it out, use it. You can turn it off if you want in the middle of the night, turn it back on the next morning. So unlike the chemical ones that are going to go until they're done and they're just going to be done, This one you can kind of control when you turn it on and off, and you can recharge it. So it's great. The next thing, you're going to notice a theme here. I'm talking about staying warm in winter because that's what time of the year it is. These really inexpensive seat covers that are heated. They basically charge in through a DC port. They have a controller built in line in the cord, so it's super easy to control. You can take them in and out of your vehicle. You know, when it's summertime, you don't want them in there, you just pull them out. They just have like elastic straps that you use to attach them to the chair. But again, they're like 20 bucks. They're really inexpensive, and they're awesome if you have like a budget rig or an older rig that doesn't have heated seats, and you just want to like wake up in the morning when it's freezing, pack your tent down, hop in the vehicle, and have a warm butt. These things are fantastic. I use them all the time. All right, my next recommendation, I'm a big knife guy. I've used this knife for the last couple of years. It's a very inexpensive knife. It's under 30 bucks. It's from a brand called Overla. It's a fixed blade. It holds an edge really well. It, again, has lasted for me for a very long time. It's been great. And I keep it on my belt every trip that I go on. I use it at home and away. It's just a great fixed blade knife for a really inexpensive amount of money. All right, my next recommendation under 50 bucks is the super bright LED light. This thing, this flashlight, is amazing. It's kind of like your old school mag light, right? But updated, rechargeable batteries, LED, super, super bright, way brighter than any mag light I ever had back in the day. It will shine a light, you know, several hundred feet away in a beam. Or you can also adjust it down and widen it out. And I use it at night when I hear something like rustling around the camp. I'll turn that on and it will light up the whole camp. So this thing is still very inexpensive, under 40 bucks, I think. There's usually a coupon on it too, so definitely check that out. But it's just an awesome flashlight, super fun to use, lots of fun to, you know, be able to light up your whole neighborhood if you need to, and it's a great gift. All right, and then my final recommendation under 50 bucks is going to be the Silky Pocket Boy folding saw. This thing is amazing. If you are, you know, familiar with bushcraft stuff, if you watch a lot of videos, you've probably heard of Silky before. They make really great quality saws. This thing is small, it folds up. I have it as a backup. I use a lot of chainsaws and things, but a lot of them are electric, so if the batteries die, or it's winter especially, sometimes the batteries have trouble holding a charge. If I needed something, this is a great backup. Cuts really fast. It's not too hard to use, even though you're doing it manually. It works really well, and it's super high quality. So again, for 40-ish bucks, it's a great deal, and it makes a great gift. All right, so now my bonus for the under $50 category. The bonus gift that I'm thinking of is there is a quick fist ratchet. This thing is new. I have not seen this thing before until recently, but it is like the other quick fists, except it has essentially what looks like a seatbelt sort of material and a ratcheting system that will pull that strap tight. But the cool thing about this is you can use it to strap bigger stuff down, like fire extinguishers or like a 5-pound propane tank, things like that. So it's just a great way to mount various things inside of your rig. All right, so next, $51 to $100 gifts. A little bit bigger gifts here, a little bit more expensive, but still pretty reasonable. So the first one I'm going to talk about is my Get Out Gear blanket. I will put a tag up here in the right-hand corner to the video that I did on it. I actually did a review on it. This thing is really super cool. It's one of the few items that I've ever bought that actually will go back into its original bag. So that's impressive point number one. Two, it's really super warm for such a small package. So I keep it just in my drawers. So just in case if I need a little bit of extra heat, if I want to put it over top of my 0-degree sleeping bag in the winter, I've got some extra down with some good loft to it that will, you know, help hold that heat in and keep me a little bit warmer. But so this thing is awesome. It also makes a great gift because it's so small. But so if you don't have one, you should definitely consider one of those as a gift for an Overlander. The next gift in the $51 to $100 range is the folding aluminum table that I use. This thing is amazing. It has an adjustable leg on it so that you can keep it stable. It's got a ton of surface space, so if you're cooking or serving food, or if you just want to use it to keep all your stuff up off the ground when you unpack your vehicle, it's a great way to do that. It's really lightweight. The bag that it comes in has a separator in it so that the legs and the tabletop stay separate. Again, I'll put a tag up here to this one because I did a video review of that one as well. But it's awesome. I really, really love this thing. It folds down super small, so it doesn't take up a ton of room when you are packing and getting ready to go, but it will hold a ton of stuff once you get to camp. So definitely highly recommend that. All right, the next thing kind of goes in line with like recovery stuff, which you'll notice there's going to be a little bit of a theme of that. That's super important for Overlanders. If you get out there in the middle of the woods and your battery dies, you're going to need something to jumpstart it. A lot of the times you can't have someone pull up in front of you, or you may be in a spot where even if you had people with you, they couldn't get around to jumpstart your vehicle. So this thing solves all that problem and makes you self-sufficient. I go solo a lot. That's why I bought this thing. But it's called the Noco GB40. Again, I'm going to put a link in the description below to this thing. Definitely do check the description though, because they have different sizes based on the application. So if you've got something with a big V8, you may need a slightly different one. So when you click through that link, just there should be multiple options of the different sizes to pick, and it'll tell you which one you need for your application. But again, these things are like self-contained battery packs with jumper cables. You just plug it into your battery. I unfortunately have had to use this thing a few times, and every time you just basically put it on your battery, hit the on button, and go in, and it starts right up. It's great. It's fantastic. So it's a lifesaver. It's a great way to keep yourself safe if you're by yourself and you want to just make sure that you don't get stranded somewhere. So I highly recommend that. All right, so the next thing is a Fisker's Maul. If you're not familiar with what mauls are, M-A-U-L, they're basically like wedge-shaped axes. So when I use my chainsaw or my Selkie to cut up a log or a down tree, a lot of the times, you've got a whole big old log. It's hard to burn that. You don't really want to burn that. It's very inefficient. With the maul, you can just split it up. So you basically use the maul to split firewood. This has been kind of a game changer for me because I was old school and I would always just throw the whole logs on, but then they burn really slow. They burn really small. You wouldn't get a lot of heat out of them, and it'd be a big pain in the butt. You couldn't hardly have a fire, right? With the splitter, you just split this thing up. The maul will just split all your wood up, and it will make it way more efficient and make it so that you have more firewood out of that log instead of just one piece. So I love it. I think it's a great piece of gear. Again, this is not like I'm not like revealing any secrets here, right? This is a pretty common thing, but something that you may not have thought about if you haven't had to process a lot of wood. All right, and my final thing in the $51 to $100 range is the Vic Off-Road 3-inch by 30-foot recovery strap and D-rings kit. This thing comes as a whole package, which is really awesome. It comes with a bag, which is literally my favorite part, the fact that it is all enclosed in a bag. So if you've used recovery gear before, it gets dirty, it gets muddy, it gets wet, and then you have to throw it back in your vehicle. I have had a 3-inch 30-foot strap that I've used several times in the past, but it didn't come with any sort of bag. I use a bungee cord that I try and wrap around this thing to hold it into a loop. But there's just no good way to store it. It doesn't stack very well. It's super odd. But with this thing, you get this whole nice little bag where it all goes together. It's amazing. So definitely recommend that. Again, link in the description below to that. All right, and then the bonus. So the bonus for the $51 to $100 range is going to be a 5-pound propane tank. Again, link in the description below to the one that I use. This thing's great. I previously used the 1-pound tanks, the disposables, and they sucked. If you're running something like a buddy heater or some sort of propane fire pit or anything like that, the 1-pounders last barely, a couple, 3 hours maybe. Like, they're just useless, and they're super wasteful. With the 5-pound tank, I literally went to my U-Haul here in town. It cost like $1.67 to fill that thing up. The guy almost couldn't believe that it was so cheap, and he was almost like, just don't even go pay for it. It's not even worth us ringing you up. They did charge me, but it was $1.67, right? And that was like a year ago, and I still have like a third of a tank. So it lasts forever. It's not nearly as big as a 20-pound. It's not nearly as heavy as a 20-pound, but you get 5 times one of those single, pound tanks that are single use, and you can reuse it, which is awesome. This one also has a little gauge built into it, so you know how much you have left, which is also awesome. But so I highly recommend that. Great bonus item in the $50 to $100 range. All right, so now we come to the final section of this video/podcast, and that is the over $100 gifts. These are going to have a little bit of a range to them, but these are literally some of my, taking money out of the equation and still not being crazy. These are some of my favorite things that I own. So let's start with my OVS awning. I currently have an OVS 180 awning. Now I have a pickup truck, so I'm actually considering swapping that out, trying to sell that, and then picking up a 270 awning. Reason being, I had an SUV with a hatch before. That's why I went with the 180, so it was just on the side of the truck. But now I have a truck, so I don't have a rear hatch. So I need something to go around the back to cover that up, because that's probably where I'm going to be cooking. Either way, I'm going to put links to both of these in the description below. But OVS's stuff is super high quality. They're freestanding. They, have built-in legs if you do need them, if it's super windy. They have tie-downs and stuff. They're just awesome. I use them all the time because they're so easy to set up. There are also wall kits, which I'll put links to in the description below as well. So if you really wanted to use these in like winter and stuff, you could zip in a wall kit, put a propane heater inside of it, and just hang out and not have to worry about the weather or the wind or anything like that. And you could stay nice and warm. So again, these things range from like $700 to like $1,000-ish bucks, and then wall kits are a little more. But for that money, you're basically getting like a room that folds out from the side of your vehicle, and they're awesome. All right, my next recommendation, and it's just barely over $100, is the Last US Bags Happy Camper. I'll put a tag up here to a review that I did recently, a long-term review of that bag. It's one of my favorite bags that I've got. Last US Bags makes amazing quality stuff, and this one is no exception. I use this one for all my cooking stuff. So basically all my utensils, my spatulas, my pots and pans, my silverware, my microfiber towels, everything to do with cooking I keep in there. So when I get home from a trip, I bring in that bag, I bring in my stuff, I wash all my dishes, I reload it, I keep it in the garage. And that way when I'm ready to go on my next trip, all I have to do is grab that one bag and I've got all my cooking stuff. So again, super, super awesome bag. You got customizable Velcro labels that you can put on the outside of it so you can, set it up however you want. But I highly recommend that bag. It's amazing. All right, next item is a little bit on the pricier side, and that is the WeBoost Cell Signal Booster. If you spend a lot of time in the woods, if you have, weak signal, but not no signal, if you're not going somewhere where there's just literally no cell coverage at all, then this thing will make a big difference in your trips. If you need to hop on calls, if you need to have access to text, if you need to be able to reach out to friends and family, if you have to work and you're spending a lot of time out camping or overlanding, then this thing is definitely a worthwhile pickup. It does run about $500, so it is not inexpensive. However, I've had mine for over a year now, and I'm telling you, there are times when before I wouldn't even be able to get a text through. It dropped calls all the time. Now I have, full ability to send texts, check social media. You can't stream movies or anything like that. It's not magic, right? But it does a really good job at boosting it enough to make it really super usable where you may not have even had anything before. So definitely highly recommend that. Again, link in the description below to that one. All right, and then my fourth recommendation over $100, and it's not too far over $100. It's pretty reasonably priced, but the Midland MX275. This is the unit that I have mounted in my truck. I previously used Midland handhelds, which are great, but you have to recharge them, right? You have to keep them charged up. If you're using them through the day, they run down. You have to recharge them overnight. You have to keep on top of it, right? It's kind of a pain. So I kept those. I still use those as backups, or if I need to leave to the truck to go spot someone, I'll use the handheld. But for the most part, I just use the one in the truck. The range is much better. It has a lot more power because it's powered off the 12 volt. It's permanently mounted, so I've always got it. I don't have to remember it or make sure I bring the charger or anything like that. It's always in the truck. But this thing is amazing. It's great. The best way to communicate on the trails, in my opinion. All right, and then my final one is it's right at $100, and sometimes it's a little bit less than $100, so it's pushing it a little bit, but I wanted to go high, not low. And that is the Nightcat all-in-one hammock sleeping solution. I will put a tag to this up here. I did a review on this thing too. It is awesome. I took it on a 4-day trip to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in September. It was great. It performed flawlessly. It has a built-in rain fly. I mean, I slept through huge thunderstorms that came through and slept like a baby. It was super nice. So if you're looking for a really pretty budget-minded hammock setup as like a backup for your rooftop tent, or, a way to just kind of get out with the family and throw up a hammock, I use it whenever I don't use my rooftop tent. I pretty much use this thing. So again, about $100. It's a really great thing to have as sort of a backup, or if you're a hammock camper, as a primary sleeping solution for your hammock camping. All right, and our final bonus thing. This thing's about 160-ish bucks. Again, there'll be a link in the description below, but the diesel heaters are all the rage. A lot of the times in the past, you've had to build your own sort of diesel heater into a Pelican case or something like that. This thing is an all-in-one diesel heater in a box. So it kind of comes with everything. All you have to do is run your exhaust tube and plug in your heat pipe to go up into your tent, or ground tent, rooftop tent, whatever you're running. Fill up the fuel and hook it up to a battery, right, to get it started and running. And that's it. But this thing is awesome. Again, there will be a link in the description below to that, but that's probably going to be my next setup for my truck. All right, guys, so that was the holiday gift edition of All Things Overlanding. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some value out of that. If you did and you're watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up button, click the like, just to tell me that it helped you. If you are not already, make sure to click that subscribe button, click the bell to be notified when new videos drop. I do gear reviews all the time. I do do-it-yourself mods. I talk about general overlanding stuff, newbie overlanding stuff. So if you're new to overlanding, or if you're not and you just love overlanding stuff, definitely consider subscribing. Also down in the description below are links to Facebook, Instagram, the podcast if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast. So definitely check those out as well. I'd love to have you everywhere you want to be. There's also a link to Patreon, and on Patreon we are trying to start a really dedicated group of weekend overlanders that want to be helpful and learn from each other. I also share videos before they come out. I ask for ideas on that. So if you want to have an impact on the show and get a chance to sort of have your voice heard and customize the videos that I'm making, I would love to have you in that group as well. And then lastly, I started a new group on Facebook called Newbie Overlanders. Again, the whole idea being my whole mantra of this channel, of everything else, and that is to help newer overlanders like myself share our knowledge with each other without judgment, without bashing people or just trying to kill people in the comments. So if you're interested in that, definitely click on that and join that group as well. But as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great holiday, and we'll see you next time.